Welcome to the NerdWallet Smart Money Podcast, where we answer your personal finance questions and help you feel a little smarter about what you do with your money. I'm Sean Piles.
And I'm Liz Weston. To send the nerds your money questions, call or text us on the Nerd Hotline at 901-730-6373. That's 901-730-NERD. Or email us at podcast@nerdwallet.com. Also, hit that subscribe button to get new episodes delivered to your devices every Monday. If you like what you hear, please leave us a review and tell a friend.
This week, we are continuing our series of episodes about financial dreams, where we talk with nerds who have accomplished their financial goals and interview a few special guests about what they want to do with their money in 2022. And since we're NerdWallet, we will also discuss the steps you can take to accomplish your own financial dreams, whatever they are.
This time around, we're talking to Andrew DaCosta about his life as a pilot and his financial goals for 2022. Welcome to Smart Money, Andrew.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm super excited to be on the show with you guys today.
Yeah, it's great to talk with you. I'd love to start off by hearing about how you got interested in becoming a pilot.
As a kid, I've always had this passion, and it was really passed down to me from my dad. He's always had a passion for aviation, and we kind of instilled that in me from a young age. So we would go to the airport. He'd have this handheld radio, and we just watch planes fly by all the time.
Oh.
So I grew up drawing airplanes and playing with die-cast models and things like that. But as I got older, I kind of shifted my mindset of that passion for aviation. I was like, I want to make money. So I decided to become an engineer. But I realized very quickly, working a 9-to-5 life, that being an engineer, it wasn't really what I wanted to do. It wasn't really fulfilling. So after a little while, I stopped doing that and decided to go full blast into aviation and went to flight school and did all the things. And 3 years later, I became an airline pilot, and it's been like that ever since. So been around 4 years now being as a pilot, and it's been a great ride so far.
Great.
So I got to ask, how old were you when you took your first lesson?
I was 18. I was 18 years old when I got my first flight lesson.
All right. And then how old were you when you got your ticket for the first time?
So I got my private pilot's license at 21, and then I got away from aviation for a while, and I came back to it at 26, and I got my big boy check ride. I passed my big boy check ride to be an airline pilot at 27, and as of yesterday, I actually just passed my captain upgrade. So now, thanks. now I'm a qualified captain for my airline. So I'm super excited, but it's a lot of responsibility, but I'm ready for it. So,
all right. Congratulations.
Right. I bet.
Thank you.
With that, let's turn to your financial goals for 2022. What do you want to accomplish in the new year?
Well, one thing is being student debt free, being more disciplined with my budgeting for sure. Because there are definitely times where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure I'm okay. And then I look at my credit card balance and I'm like, wow, I spent a lot more money than I would have liked to. So credit card discipline is a big one. It's so easy to just swipe a card. You know what I mean?
Do you have a current budgeting system that you use, or is it more seeing what you charge on your account and then kind of reeling a little bit and paying it off?
Yeah, I like to say I wish I was more organized, but unfortunately that's not really the case. I'm definitely more of okay, I in my mind know how much I make and I can make X amount of purchases, but again, it is those small things, those $5 cups of coffee every day at the airport that really start to stack up at the end of the month. And then you realize, like, wow, I spent all this money on things that I didn't really plan for.
Have you ever looked into the 50-30-20 budgeting system? Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it, but I'm not like as familiar with it as
with the 50-30-20 budget, half of your income goes to cover things that are needs. That would be things like your rent. And then 30% goes towards wants. Those are the cups of coffee that you have in the morning, even though they may feel like a need. And then 20% goes towards your debt payments and savings. And if you can go through your budget, your various line items of things that you're spending money on over the past month or 3 months, and then categorize them into these different categories, you can see where your spending falls and then readjust how you are allocating your money to try to fit into these buckets a little bit better.
And Andrew, one of the reasons we like it is it's very flexible. It doesn't really matter what your income is. It works on basically almost any income, above poverty level. And it helps if you like lose your job, the must-have expenses that you have to cover are contained. They're not like eating up half your life. And it gives you enough flexibility to have some fun and save for the future and all that. But I wanted to know about the credit card situation. Are you actually carrying balances, or are you still able to pay off your bill month to month?
I pay my bill off month to month. I
Okay, all right.
That's good.
if there's one thing that really bothered me is paying interest on credit cards.
Okay.
Um, and so I try my best to pay it off. Although when it comes to credit score, I'm not really sure what the best thing to do is.
Hmm.
If it is to just completely wipe it clean or to hold a
Yes.
balance.
No, you never want to carry a balance on a credit card. There's no advantage to it with your credit scores. You basically want to use your cards lightly but regularly, pay them off in full every month. And maybe
Hmm.
don't have too many, don't use too many cards at one time, but you really, really don't have to carry a balance or pay any interest to have good credit scores. So
Hmm.
that's the good news. I'm just thinking, you paid off a tremendous amount of money in a short amount of time. You're paying off your credit card bills in full every month. I don't think discipline's really your problem. I think you just need to get a system that actually works for you.
There are definitely times where I overextend myself, especially months where I anticipate making X amount and I made less.
Hmm.
And then there's months that I've made more than I anticipated. And that really falls down to like how my secondary businesses are doing.
Some people recommend having what's called a bare bones budget if you have a volatile income. That way, you know the minimum expenses that you have to cover each month. So if you do have one month that's a little bit more lean, you'll be able to still cover everything. So I also heard that you're interested in saving for a down payment on a house. Let's talk about that.
Definitely saving right now,
Okay.
especially in this market. And looking at my long term goals, I don't know how long I plan on staying in Philadelphia. Especially if I can get a job with another airline that requires me to move. Maybe if I do buy a place, use that as like a rental, and rent it out to someone or something like that. But I'm not really sure exactly what I want to do yet. For me, it's like, okay, well, I'm renting right now. Things are great, and putting money aside when it's so expensive to own a home, it just doesn't seem realistic.
Well, right now, renting can be great for you because it gives you freedom. You're not tied down to a
Yeah.
specific place. And because the housing market is so difficult, if you're trying to buy a house in Philadelphia where you are or another major metropolitan city, it's going to be really expensive. That's part of why I recently bought a house, but I bought it in a rural coastal Washington town because that's where I could afford a house. So
Mhm.
it might be worth expanding where you're looking at houses, especially if there is an airport nearby. I'm not sure exactly how that works for you. If you need to be in a major hub city, or if you could be somewhere where there is an airport nearby and fly elsewhere.
Yeah, I think you probably need to be relatively sure you're going to stay in the same place for 3 to 5 years before it makes sense to buy a house, unless you're going
Mhm.
out to be a landlord. And that's a
Right.
whole different discussion. But,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a whole other
if
thing.
you're going to move in a year or two, probably renting, as Sean said, that buys you freedom. That's not a bad thing.
What I can afford to buy and what I can afford to rent are just vastly different. To own a place in center city Philadelphia just doesn't really seem feasible when the HOAs are what, $600 $800 a month.
Just as some general guidelines for you, a lot of folks can put down a down payment of as little as 3.5%. And that's if they are going for a loan backed by the Federal Housing Administration. So it's not like you need 20% down of a house. It can be nice to have 20% down because then you don't have to have private mortgage insurance and it can increase your chances of being approved for the mortgage. But you really don't need that much. And you're also interested in utilizing credit cards more in 2022. Is that right?
Yeah, I would like to maybe get a new credit card, or at least utilize the points, different credit cards to my to the greatest advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whether it be for like business purchases or for my business or just for leisure, just trying to get the most out of like what I can, and I know NerdWallet's great with that type of stuff. I mean, I think looking way back in 2016 when I was first looking up different kinds of credit cards, NerdWallet was the first thing that popped up.
Well, and as you probably know, the biggest payoff is actually with the sign-up bonuses. When you get a new
Right.
card, you can get 100,000 points or 100,000 miles or something like that. And you typically have to spend a certain amount in the first few months. You might have to spend $5,000 in the first 3 months or whatever. And since you mentioned a business, you also can get a card for your business specifically. And that doesn't show up typically on your credit report. So that's, you use your own credit to get those cards, but it doesn't affect your credit in the same way. So yeah, there's a lot of territory to explore here.
What do you want from your card? Are you interested in getting travel points, hotel stays potentially, or cash back?
I think for me, it's more so like it would be definitely hotel stays or things with travel, where I could use my card and save for something that's on a trip where it's like, oh, I can stay at this really nice hotel for a lot more practical price compared to what I could have before. And that's just because of my everyday purchases with this credit card that I'm working towards this.
Personally, I love those premium cards. I know they're expensive, but they also have a lot of benefits that can offset all of that expense. Typically you might have, well, I don't know how much you have to worry about baggage fees, but there can be airline fees that they give back. There can be credits for restaurants. So if you look at the long list of benefits they have, and you think that you can use those benefits, then those premium cards actually can pay for themselves. And oh man, the lounges make a huge difference, don't they?
Yeah, well, between paying off your student loan debt and your recent promotion, it sounds like you have a lot of exciting stuff in store for you in 2022, even if that doesn't mean buying a house this year.
Yeah, and I think realistically, I'm moving out of my current spot. I've been living with two other pilot friends of mine, and they're all moving to bigger and better things and moving to different cities. So we're all splitting up, and so in the new year, moving to a new place. And I was thinking about it too. I was like, man, this is probably the last time I'll ever be living with friends again. It was a little sad, but at the same time, it's like happiness is financial freedom.
Great. Well, Andrew, so great to talk with you. Hope you have a great 2022.
Oh, thank you very much. It was great talking with you both as well.
And with that, let's get to our takeaway tips, and I'll start us off. First, find a system. Whether you use the 50-30-20 budget or another budgeting tool, make a plan for your spending, savings, and debt payments.
Next up, renting buys you freedom. Buying a home often doesn't make sense if you aren't able to stay put for a few years.
Finally, know what you want from a credit card. Applying for a new card can earn you a big sign-up bonus, but make sure the ongoing benefits are worth the annual fee. And that's all we have for this episode. If you want your money questions answered on a future episode, turn to the Nerds and call or text us your questions at 901-730-6373. That's 901-730-NERD. You can also email us at podcast@nerdwallet.com. Visit nerdwallet.com/podcast for more information on this episode. And remember to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you're getting this podcast.
And here is our brief disclaimer, thoughtfully crafted by NerdWallet's legal team. Your questions are answered by knowledgeable and talented finance writers, but we are not financial or investment advisors. This nerdy info is provided for general educational and entertainment purposes and may not apply to your specific circumstances.
And with that said, until next time, turn to the nerds.